So I have a deposit on a C8 Z06. Let me give you all the details. What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Fred's Full Throttle. Each week I'm going to take you with me on my adventures in the world of cars. Let's get right into today's video. Alright, so since I filmed my last video, I've actually had taken a little bit of time off. My wife and I did a trip. We were gone for about a week. And while we were away, Chevy decided to unveil the C8 Z06. Whoa. I had made a video a couple weeks ago that aired that was about should I get a C8 Z06. Obviously, I've been feeling pretty conflicted. I really love the C7. I love the Grand Sport. I've been so happy with it as an ownership experience. It's fun to drive. It's just a fantastic car. And I had been speculating a little bit based on some videos I had seen of cars going around the Nürburgring, and really had just had, a pretty good impression based on what I had seen. Even the camouflage test cars just sounded amazing. There was a pretty strong hint about the flat plane motor that was going to be in it, but none of the details had really been released. And so at that time, there was also only a single photo that had been released. It was a silver Z06. And at that point, I really didn't know much else about the car. And so I was sort of lamenting back and forth, do I keep my car? Do I get just the new car? Do I keep my car and try to get the new car? And it was actually really interesting to get the feedback on the channel from a lot of people. Reached out and said, hey, you should keep your car, or you should, get the new car. And it actually seemed like the general consensus was that the C7 is such a good car that I should keep it. And so I really appreciated all the feedback, and I'm inclined to agree. The C7 is such a fantastic car. And so since that video, with all this new information coming to light about the Z06, it's really just been like, holy cow, Chevy built the car that everybody wants, but somehow no other manufacturer has been able to make. The car is going to have a 5.5 liter flat plane V8, which, if you're not familiar, it's going to sound a lot more like a Ferrari and be high revving versus the traditional cross plane V8 that pretty much every Corvette has had since the dawn of time. So that's kind of one main difference. The next, and this is probably the most impressive thing, is that the car is going to have naturally aspirated 670 horsepower. I believe it's 460 pound-feet of torque as well. So this car has a ton of power, more than the C7 Z06 did, without being supercharged. So Chevy took a page out of their book looking back at the C7 and realized that the Z06, those heating issues have persisted. Now, they released a fix, and so I've gotten a lot of comments from people saying that when they bought their 2019 Z06, they didn't have those heating issues. All of that said, I totally understand, but Chevy themselves have said that that was a mistake on their part, and that the car really never lived up to the track-bred focus that it was intended to have, I guess. And so anyway, the C8 is naturally aspirated. There's no supercharger there, there's no turbos, which is going to definitely help with cooling. Additionally, they took the cooling very seriously on this car with a whole bunch of radiators, heat exchangers, and routing the cooling from the front of the car to the back, obviously, since it's mid-engine, and really have made this into a track-focused car that can actually put up hour after hour of lap times at a track in hot weather and not have problems. So I think that's a huge, huge win for Chevy. Additionally, they've widened the car. It's 3.6 inches wider than the standard car, and so that means that it's going to have a lot of room for wider tires. And so I believe it's 275 20-inch tires in the front, and then it's, going off memory here, 345 21-inch tires in the back. And so these are the widest tires that Chevy has ever put on a Corvette, especially those rear tires, those 345s. My car, I did a tire change video, and I have 335s on mine, which are basically like rolling pins for your car, and these are even wider than that. They're another 10 millimeters wider. So dramatically wider tires. That, combined with the car is already low to begin with, widening out that profile is definitely going to make the car look even more fancy and even more special. On top of that, they've got a whole bunch of interesting trim packages. They've got carbon fiber wheels you can opt for. They've got a full aero kit with a Z07 package where you've got dive planes in the front, and you've got a really big carbon front splitter. You also have a low wing or a high wing. The high wing itself, I think they said it's like 700 pounds of downforce, 750 pounds of downforce. at, I think it was 160 miles an hour, which is the most of any car, even more so than the C7 ZR1, which had that mega huge wing on the back. This is more downforce than that, yet it's also less drag. It's more aerodynamic. What is it? The drag coefficient is actually a lower number than the C7 ZR1. Additionally, those huge new tires are going to give the car tremendous mechanical grip. That wide stance is going to push those tires to the outside, and Chevy is quoting 1.22 Gs on the skid pad. That's pretty amazing. On top of all this, the car is supposedly 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. 2.6. I mean, that's certainly supercar territory. And that line of, is the car a supercar or not? I mean, C7 was the first car where people started to throw around the term, like, is this a supercar? And in fact, maybe even on the C6 ZR1, but really the C7, especially with the Z06, you got a lot of people who are like, I think this is a supercar. And if you looked at the numbers, you know, 650 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 times that were right in that range, that line was starting to blur. But I think ultimately a lot of people just didn't consider the Corvette to be a supercar, unless maybe you got to the ZR1 trim. But now with the C8 Z06, I don't think there's many people who can argue. Maybe it's less expensive than supercars. I think that's definitely going to be the case. But you have to define what makes a supercar, and ultimately it's going to be one of those things where maybe someone can mean an exotic car, but I think this is batting above that line of being a supercar, and I think this is going to put the rest of the world on notice, as Chevy says even in their own release video. Anyway, that's a long way of basically saying ultimately this is just a phenomenal looking car. On paper, it's going to be one of the most impressive cars that's probably ever come out as far as performance, bang for the buck, and really showing that like American cars can handle as good or better, likely better, than a lot of their European counterparts. So anyway, you're probably thinking, why are you in your Tacoma, and what does that have to do with the Z06? Well, as a matter of fact, I am headed over to MacMulkin to go put a deposit on getting a Z06. I was on vacation when that news broke, relaxing. I was at the beach and literally could not believe what I was seeing. I watched the video, I read the stats and the facts and figures. I've burned them into my memory. I've gone through all the press photos about 100 times and could not get the car out of my head. And really am just like blown away that this was something that Chevy is like, yeah, I think we can do this. We can do this for an approachable price number. Still certainly a lot of money, but this car is really going to elevate Corvette beyond any level anyone really expected. So I'm headed over to MacMulkin, which you may remember if you've watched a lot of my videos. MacMulkin is where I bought my C7 Grand Sport in 2017. Fast forward, it's 2021, and I'm headed over there now to put a deposit on a C8 Z06. Now, 2 months ago, when I got new tires put on the C7 Grand Sport, I had some time. It was going to take a couple hours to do the work, so I went upstairs and I talked to their Corvette staff. If you haven't been to MacMulkin, the second and third story of this huge building is just Corvettes. That's all they sell. They have a whole team dedicated to that. So as I was floating around, I went and found someone from the Corvette team, and I asked about the C8 Z06. Now, at that point, the car hadn't been unveiled, and they told me that there was already over 800 names on their deposit list. Now, I might have mentioned this in an earlier video, but the way it works is $2,000 down to show intent, and it's fully refundable up until the point where you actually like order the car. So you specify all your options. We don't know the MSRP yet. That's one of the big things that Chevy has not released. We also don't know the weight of the car. So those are the two kind of big things hanging out there. It really doesn't matter to me what the car weighs, and as long as I can get the car somewhere near MSRP, especially being on a long wait list, I feel like I'll be in good shape. Now, I don't think it will be the same situation as it was for me when I bought my C7, because I got that car at 13% under MSRP, but at the time they had something like 300 Corvettes in stock, and I was able to negotiate a little bit, and they happened to have the exact car that I wanted. In fact, they had 4 of them. This time around, I will feel lucky if I get MSRP, so I will share that info as soon as I have any sense of what the price of the car will actually be. But right now it's $2,000 down, fully refundable. I'm guessing there's probably going to be 900 or 1,000 names ahead of me in the list. Then I'll have some time to think about, what do I want to do with my current car? Do I want to trade it in towards it? Certainly the values are high. I've been offered what I paid already. Car is 15,000 miles, has had all the service done at MacMulkin, and is in literally pristine showroom, like as sold to me condition. So I'm in a really good position if I do want to get rid of the car. Now, I had said that I want to keep the car, and I really would love to, but at the same time, I don't know what this is going to cost. I don't know if they're going to have any additional dealer markup. There's a lot of unknowns there, so TBD on that. But at a minimum, I'm going to get probably 2 to 3 more years of enjoying the C7 at a minimum before I have to really make a decision. And it'll be interesting to see, first of all, what position am I going to have in line? You know, am I number 950, number 1,000, maybe number 1,200? On top of that, how many people are actually going to follow through on buying it? Now, it's one thing to put down $2,000. That's a relatively attainable number for most people, that you can put that down, and other than not having that money sitting in a bank account or in an investment, there's no real cost to you other than it's kind of an interest-free loan for Chevy or for MacMulkin. But when it comes time to actually pay for the car, like I said, right now the price has not been unveiled. I've seen estimates starting at somewhere like in the 88,000 range, all the way up to about 95 for entry-level base price, no options. So we'll see. I'm not going to have that info today, I don't think. I'll certainly share it if I do. But it will be interesting to see how many people drop out once those prices are released. You know, using the C7 Z06 as an example, I think the base, most like stripped out model, somewhere around 85,000. I would imagine this definitely has a bit of a premium. There was a lot of brand new research and development that went into the car in order for it to get to, you know, being mid-engine, full flat plane motor. They had to redesign a lot of the aspects of the car in order to fit the motor. And so I would imagine that they're gonna pass some of that cost into the base price, but I'd be shocked if it's more than about 95,000 for a base model. And realistically, I'm thinking they wanna come in at like that 89,000, just under 90,000 for a base model. But yeah, so anyway, I'm almost to MacMulkin. We're gonna go check it out, see what's going on, and go from there. So the whole second and third floor here is generally dedicated to Corvettes. And there, my friends, is MacMulkin. We'll see if this audio picks up. I think I forgot to turn on the mic when I was adjusting the camera, so the previous footage may not have the world's best audio, so I apologize for that. Alright, so I've got a deposit on a C8 Z06 now. I'm so excited, like my voice is catching a little. I am thrilled. So I learned a couple really interesting things. So, first of all, I am reservation number 1175 at MacMulkin. That's a lot of people. That's all of the 2023 model year, which that's going to be the first year they're making this. That's going to be released in 2022 as a 2023. 2023 is all spoken for. Probably all of 2024 is spoken for. We'll see. That was kind of up in the air. 2025, I would definitely get a car, it sounded like. Certainly none of the numbers are set in stone, and they said, you know, we can't guarantee anything until you get a lot closer and there have been actual allocations. But they said a couple other interesting things. Biggest thing, MSRP. MSRP. So if you take away nothing else, keep in mind you can get the car for MSRP if you buy it from MacMulkin. MacMulkin is the second largest dealer in the United States for Corvettes. Probably soon to be first, if I had to guess. And they are doing MSRP, plus whatever their administrative fee was, which I think was like $499. It's actually $479 for out of state, which is negligible. But it's MSRP, which is fantastic. I didn't know. Are they going to have a huge markup? And the price of the car hasn't even been released, and they're willing to do MSRP for anybody. I didn't have to ask for it. This was just, you want the car? We're going to treat you as a beloved customer, and we're going to give you MSRP, which I think is pretty great. Whew. So, on top of that, one of the things they said is right now, so I'm 25 shy of the 1200th person to get there's so many C7s driving around and C8s near this dealership. But so I'm just shy of 1200 on the list, which that's a lot of people. But what they said is that likely up to half of those are people who are not serious about the car, or their life circumstances are going to change. They said realistically, I'm probably like somewhere around 600 or 700 back. They said obviously maybe every single one of those people does want the car, is going to pay for it, but figure it this way. They said I'm probably 2 to 3 years out from getting it, being able to place my order and actually having an allocation. And so they said in that time, people's life circumstances change. That also is a lot of money right now. The money hasn't even been unveiled. So they don't know what the prices are going to be. They can speculate, they can guess, but they said ultimately until Chevy releases that, they're not going to have any more info than I have. And what that means is that very well a lot of people are going to drop off. They said right now a lot of people seem to be putting a deposit down because of the fear of missing out. But it sounded like there's a good chance that a significant chunk of them are going to actually get to, okay, I need to, pay for the rest of the car, and that's when they're going to cancel out. I'm not in any rush, and I got another year or two to really enjoy the C7, so I'm pretty excited about that. They gave me a couple pieces of info about how to see where I am on the list, as well as there's a tool that you can use to actually log in and see. As they start fulfilling allocations, I'll see that position change. So if you like this video or you're interested in C8 Z06 content, please consider giving me a like or a subscribe. That really helps me out. I'm a pretty small YouTuber, but I'm going to be documenting the journey as I go along. So until next time, Fred out.